It's time now for perspective. South America is home to the world's largest rainforest and also the largest river. It's home to ancient ruins, roaring cities and soaring mountains. But it's also seeing its access to drinking water threatened as the planet warms, deforestation on a mass scale and indigenous communities threatened. Not to mention the arrival of a new wave of social unrest across the region in recent months. My guest today is prize-winning journalist Alfred de Montesquieu, whose latest book is called Sur la route des extrêmes, possibly a path of extremes in English. Your musings following an extensive 5-month-long trip across South America. Thank you very much indeed for coming on to speak to us here at France 24.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you for the translation. It's a good.
I hope I did. I hope I did a good job. Did you good service? So this is by no means your first foray into the world of travel journalism. What was it about South America that really attracted you?
The idea was to cross a continent, like the previous time I crossed Asia for the Silk Road. Here, the idea was to cross a continent, but to use, in a sense, South America as a magnifying glass to look into the possibilities of our future. The idea is that, as you mentioned, it's the continent of extremes. So the longest mountain chain, the biggest forest, the biggest river, also the driest desert, Atacama Desert, and the southernmost living sector on Earth, which is around Patagonia and Tierra del Fuego and Cape Horn. The underlying idea is that each of these extreme environments is a kind of magnifying glass of what our climatic future could look like. If you caricature, you know, if the North and the South Pole melt, we'll all live in a kind of amphibious, a lot of us will live in an amphibious environment like the people along the Amazon. If there's no more Gulf Stream, a lot of us will live in France or England or so on, as the people of the Andes who live with huge temperature differences, very strong solar rays and so on. If it's completely desertified, we'll have to learn to live like the people who live on the margins of the Atacama and so on. So each of our 5 journeys, because it's 5 documentaries on Arte that were built into one book, each of these 5 journeys are a way to explore let's say, the possibility or the dystopia of a possible future if we completely mess up with our planet.
And what sort of evidence did you find that we are, in fact, already seeing those changes brought about by climate change?
Well, yeah, it's twofold. First, when you're in South America, you're not talking. You're not. It's not the future tense. You know, it's not like, ooh, things will become complicated if we do this or that. It's now. It's here. You know, it's present tense. The forest is burning. People are living a horrible life along the Amazon. They literally live with water up to the waist during half of the year because of the floods and so on. The most striking example, it's kind of weird, but it's a really striking example. In the Andes, the peasants who cultivate the potatoes don't have any chemicals, right? So to prevent parasites, they need a very strong cold during the winter months to kill off the parasites. And because of global warming, each year they've had to plant their crops a little bit higher up the mountain, because each year it gets warmer, so they have to go fetch the cold higher up. And so I was with this chief, this guy called Washington Haracampi, and we were 4,000.
It's a good name.
Nice name, and very striking guy, really handsome guy. You can see him in the book with this incredible poncho and this red hat and so on. But so we were at 4,500 meters high. That's really high. And he looked at me and he said, look at this mountain. It's 5,000 meters high. So we're moving 50 meters a year. Where do we go in 10 years? You know, where do we go? And it suddenly struck me, the urgency of it, the immediacy of it. So that's one aspect, clearly. The second aspect, to make it brief, is, however, and this is the positive side, I say, that what I also saw across the continent is that if you stop destroying nature, if you just let it be, not even like help it, but just let it be, if you stop cutting the trees, the natural resources are so strong, so vivid, that it booms again.
So the human impact is extraordinary, it's extreme.
Yeah, but it's twofold. Like if you have a smart relationship to these natural resources, they recover very, very fast, and they can provide a lot of life very fast. There's this example in the book. We were in actually it was bought by a Brit. So this British backpacker bought a small piece of the jungle that was completely destroyed, like it was a coffee farm on the border between Peru and Brazil, and let it be. Well, that was 15 or 20 years ago, and now it's a kind of bioreserve with all these. We're seeing some of the images behind. All these biologists who come by and who measure stuff. There was this one young girl called Hillary, an American woman, and she was counting the butterflies, which is a very important. It's like a thermometer. It's a way to measure the health of a forest. The more butterflies, because it's a very vulnerable species. If there's a lot of butterflies, it means the forest is in good shape, and the forest was booming with butterflies, just because over a 15-year period it had stopped being cut. All the trees were growing again, and the forest was booming. It was full of animals, full of insects.
So that's an example of one person being able to make a real difference. This at a time when Brazil's President Jair Bolsonaro has said the Amazon, the lungs of the world as we know them, they're not actually the world's. They're ours to do with what we want. Do you have any hope for the Amazon with someone like him leading the country?
I'm just a reporter. I just have opinions on what I see. It seems to me that it's completely suicidal and incredibly short-termist. So I don't see how it can work out. My impression is that there are two phenomena. First, on a grassroots level, and it's incredibly important across South America, the grassroots level, what we would call in Europe the Greta Thunberg generation. In South America, it's already there. It's been there for a few years already, and they're becoming very, very active, very proactive. So the kind of grassroots level of activism of the young generation is already there. But it's two-pronged. I think also on the other side, we in Europe, we in the wealthy countries, have a lot to say. When I see that the London Stock Exchange is considering delisting companies that don't have an ecological program and a sustainable program, I think that can be a hell of a lot more effective towards the big firms who today think they can do huile de palme across South America. I think that can have a huge impact on people like Bolsonaro. And I think we need to take our very strong responsibilities, not just a little protest in front of the Brazilian embassy or something.
Okay, Alfred de Montesquieu, thank you very much indeed for speaking to us here at France 24. Your latest book is called Sur la route des extrêmes. I think we settled on the path of extremes.
Yeah, I'm going to tell it to the publisher.
To your publishers.
Yeah, for the English version.
Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you, Exie.